Hey everyone, Wendler here, and today we're going to be taking a look at how I approach map control and my philosophy on that. Sorry that this video has been, I didn't really anticipate it to be a month roughly before I get my next theory video out. I do want to do this stuff weekly, just some things came up, life stuff came up, but nonetheless, we're back. So we're going to talk about why defense feels awkward sometimes and just go over some map control basics and how at a fundamental level I like to break down map control for people I'm teaching the game to. So for starters, the question I want to ask, or that people have approached me with, is why does bind defense, for example, feel so frustrating at times, right? A lot of times when people talk about this map, they talk about it's really focused on like showers, like whether you're attacking or whether you're defending. If you don't have control of showers, often feels like you lose, like you don't really have control over the pace of the match, right? So I wanted to look deeper into like why was this feeling so common? Like what was it about showers that made this map so tough to deal with in terms of playing defense accurately? The other kind of point with that I wanted to talk about is players also don't prioritize ultimate orbs on defense or in general as much as they should either. Like it seems like a common thing, but for example, on a map like Fracture where orbs are just freely to be farmed, it's not really a priority. It's like a second thought most of the time when this is just such a powerful map positioning tool that's accessible to you, or like a map control tool that's accessible to you as a player. So, but with that, I noticed that there was a common theme, right? Like showers was really annoying to hold, and it also contained an ultimate orb right smack dab in the middle of it, right? Why why was this the case? What causes this feeling, right? So as everyone knows for the most part, orbs consist of T-sided orbs, CT-sided orbs, so attacker-sided, defender-sided, and then equally there's orbs that I refer to as even, otherwise known as like 50-50s, right? Like at a base level, they're just put at even odds, and depending on util, you can change those odds to your favor, right? So in my opinion, anytime you see an orb that is a 50-50, it's the game screaming to you to take control of this area, right? So if you take any arena shooter, for example, if we take Halo and you just put a sniper rifle spawn right here, naturally what you're going to do is try to fight and contest for this area because you want the sniper under your control, whether it's a sword, whether it's rockets, whether it's invis, point goes on and on. But it's a power point on the map that's even advantage that both teams can work to take control of, right? So you want to fight and use utility to grant you that space. Ultimate orbs that are 50-50s are just riot are no different than these power weapons examples, and taking numbers here does matter, right? So going back to this example on bind here, we notice that Shower's orb is a 50-50, right? With a small use of utility, we can grant ourselves control of this space, thus control the pace of the map. And the reason for the reason for that is the following, okay? So when we control showers, right, the first thing teams may try to do is meet us with utility, right? So if we use a smoke and like let's say a sky flash where we can sky flash into the teleporter and just pop out right here to get control, it's possible that the enemy team might respond with a sky flash of their own to make us respect this space to some degree, right? They may respond with their own smoke, making this peak very awkward for them to deal with. Like there's different ways they could respond, but in general, they could use utility to match the space control. Often this doesn't really happen in rank just because players just have massive egos. But excuse me. The other thing they can do is just W key into A short. So when we fight for this space, what it could do is instead of the attacking team wanting to contest showers, instead they'll go the easy route, what they feel is easier, and they'll just all pin themselves into a short, to which you force them into a singular choke point. You have two huge power points of control on the map as a defender, and you can really just hard punish them. Like, it's not fun for attackers to only deal with short, and I'm sure there's plenty of players that have played bind and can relate to this feeling. Like, when you're forced into the singular choke to try and get bomb down, and you have to deal with showers uncontested, backside uncontested, heaven uncontested, you all uncontested. Like, there's a ton of different factors here that just make that very, very stressful and not fun feeling. And then finally, C is they just rotate B. They rotate to B. So instead of dealing with this or dealing with A, they just decide, hey, like, I don't want to do this anymore. Let's just go B instead. And at that point, you're essentially working with all the information, and that's where you can take your map control and your defensive philosophy to the next level to start utilizing these reads and then make your defense even that much stronger, right? All three of these options sort of provide that. And as I mentioned in my last video, also forcing utility out from your opponent will make your general sight holds and retakes that much easier to deal with. B on bind is already the worst sight in the game to retake in terms of like defensive success. So if you're able to cost the attacking team utility in showers, utility in short, and then they have to leave and try to hit B, it allows you to find a lot easier of an opening on your retake to make that more in your favor, right? There's a few additional examples that also kind of like utilize this orb here. If we take Pearl, A site is actually also another 50-50, where early on in Pearl's life, you did see teams sort of try to fight for this area. Defensive Astros would orb up early to force the same thing, like a singular choke clear. You saw similar teams like TSM would actually on attack use a fade seize lineup to immediately lock off any entry from the attacking side. And this is often combined with, like, I think there's been a few KO pop flashes that hit over the wall to stall. But this area is a very, very key area also to contest. And that was before B turned into the let's just plant and go long simulator, which the changes so far, in my opinion, have sort of alleviated the B slam strategy from this map, which I do like. It'll be interesting to see how that translates actually to pro play, and if that will affect the meta a little bit and how teams adjust. Because I do think A is like a huge core part of the map. For example, when I would play Viper, like before the map got solved, I would wall like this, and I would scale up with a teammate. Doesn't matter who the teammate is. And as I would scale up, I would molly here. And what this molly doesn't really show is it actually blocks off the whole path line. So you get a bunch of players, especially in ranked, that don't care. They'll just run through both of this, and they immediately take your molly debuff and the wall debuff, and it's just free kills for you. And at that point, you control the rest of the pace. You know, if they're art, they have to hard clear you into A main, or you have all the info that they're going street to B. And that way it arms your B players and your mid players to higher success to like another degree. Like, this is my best map statistically in the game, I believe, as well. Just to kind of provide additional insight here. Yeah. Pearl is my best map. I mainly play Viper on the map. I have a 57% win rate, so I'm not crazy. I promise. And then there's a few like other maps that kind of hit it, but it's a bit tougher of a window to kind of connect on. Main one being B. You could smoke this off same way attackers can smoke slow you off, and you can fight for this early orb control. Especially with how important a mid split is and how awkward the rotation into A is. You can sort of work to the same degree, but this map is a lot tighter, so it's a lot harder to work to that same freedom that Pearl, bind, or even fracture to provide. And a bunch of you were like, fracture? Like, what do you mean? So, like, this is the main core point of this video that I want to kind of sum up all the points into. So, if we take this same concept, right, and we look at all 4 of the ultimate orbs on fracture, the big common theme with all of these orbs to some degree is that they are all 50-50s, right? Some of them might be slightly advantageous, like a little bit, but for the most part, you can use like 2 pieces of utility and clear out space for you to guarantee these orbs to yourself, right? A lot of players fundamentally hate this map, and it's because they're not contesting neutral space to any degree, and they're letting the attacking team freely contest. Like, if you take this idea and apply it to any other map, you will fail, you will struggle, right? Like, you need to be willing on defense to fight out of one of these positions to gain information for your team, right? That's the whole idea of this map. It's flipping the idea of neutral on its head. The huge problem that I see fundamentally is you'll have players that will play this map like so, right? Like a chamber will peek and then they back off, call for a smoke. Someone will peek dish or no one will be dish. They do the same thing. They're pinned up here. And the attacking team is warranted all of this space and they don't have to worry about using utility until they're here, right? And the same thing can be said if they come out sand. They come out B. If they hit arcade. If you give all this space to them, with like one person trying to hold, you're gonna struggle, right? If we go back to, like, we just take another map for example. If I tell you, hey, you're playing on Ascent, and you're gonna defend B by just jiggle peeking mid and just playing backside boathouse, there's no world you do this because you're giving all of mid up, you're giving all of CT up, and you're giving all of B main up. And there's no world you can play clean defense like this. Like, it's just, it's going to feel frustrating. I can guarantee you it feels frustrating because anytime you get heavy exec on a site, you feel like you're in a chokehold where, like, you can't get out and do anything. And that's because we're not willing to contest them where it needs to be contested, to make them work hard for that space, you know, to take those early fights with utility, right? So the 2 main examples, at least, that I like to contest on this map when I'm playing controller is if I play Brim or Astra, like depending on the team I'm playing with, I usually like to smoke main and then molly in the front walkout, and I'll ask for a player to play with me. And we immediately can operate all the information for our team. If they decide to push out and contest this, we have the info. And usually, for the most part, we can walk away with a kill or 2 and reset. Or B, the attacking team sees this, doesn't push this at all. We get no audio, and then we can immediately enable our B players and start working our rotation, right? The other option I like to sort of do to control is when I'm playing arcade, same thing. I'll have someone come with me. I'll smoke off the entrance to arcade, and then set up like a double walk up and then walk down into hell. This is really big, especially at like lower MMR first, because you'll have these 2 players here that get their ult and they just want to W key right down into this corner and they feel like that's their win condition. The second thing is a base skill line in general where there's no players that really anticipate all of this neutral space being contested early on in the game. So when a team is heavy B main, they don't really care about hell, or do they expect someone to catch them on a timing underneath hell either. They just assume they can walk up, and I can guarantee you there's a lot of players that will watch this video where I'll ask you, how often when you guys go B main are you really concerned about someone being in hell? And most people will say rarely, if not anything at all, because players are not fighting for this neutral space. They're too afraid to work out. But that's the type of map control you need to establish, right? Both of these options, like, it's something that Hiko has talked about, where Hiko's mentioned, and there's been TikToks where, You need to be able to fight out. But the main reason you fight out of these chokes is to get that neutral space and then to arm yourself with all the information that you're looking for, right? And as the core point that we talked about, all of these orbs are 50-50s. Riot is incentivizing you to fight out of these spaces, get control of these spaces, right? And either the enemy team will respond with utility, or they'll just simply leave and it sets you up for a free flank or pressure, right? From all the information you gain. So it's important too, when you take these like ideas, to not just rely on them as a controller player, but any other role you play in this game. These are important things to be thinking about, right? I genuinely feel that this map is a good map. It's just it's not being played to the potential that it should be played at. And so it feels really frustrating, right? Because people feel like they don't have answers, but the answers are there. It's just enabling yourself to be able to perform to them, right? The other question I think that will result from this a little bit is, well, what if you get a map like Ascent where neither orb is a true 50-50, right? Like neither of these orbs, like, I mean, B might be, maybe, but I'm pretty sure this is still more T-sided. But when that happens, when you're looking through at maps, that's Riot telling you there's a different key part of the map that you need to win. And in the case of Ascent, that answer is mid. So if the orbs don't straight up have a map control position, there's a different part of the map that you need to actively be fighting for, right? And especially on Ascent, you know, defenders can't really contest and like heavily push mid. The main thing you can do is get an op online and make the attacking team respect mid. And that gets into like a whole separate point entirely. But just for the base sake of the conversation, if there's not an orb that tells you what you need to do, then there's a different part of the map that's screaming for you, telling you what you need to do. So to close, this isn't an end-all, be-all way. Obviously, this is just really fundamental on how I look at my defensive philosophy. I use this for a lot of maps. Like when Lotus came out, I noticed the opening space of A and the confined space of B and C to predict that this map, for the most part, was going to end up like a 2-1-2 with 2 players A, a floater B, and then you have a single sentinel on C with another floater. And that's exactly how this map's played out. And that's just me analyzing the orbs. And then after analyzing the orbs, analyzing what are the attacker's options for entry and what can they do. And sure enough, this is kind of what this map has devolved into for the most part, especially with double controller, freeing up that ability to take that map space. So I hope this video helps you, and I hope this video helps you expand your game and helping improve your map control abilities. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and a comment, as I love just discussing Valorant in general with everybody. I do offer private coaching. There's a Discord link in the description. If that's something you're interested in, it's just $50. Sessions usually run about 2 hours. And I have a huge log on my Twitch channel of previous sessions that I've done working with players between bronze all the way up to immortal. So if you need additional support to make sure what I'm doing checks out, definitely check that out as well. And you could always just join too and just shoot me a DM and just talk Valorant or any other questions. So I appreciate you stopping in, watching this video. Probably stay tuned. I have a few more things coming down the pipeline. I think I should have a little bit more frequency on, I should say. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time when they're out.